Welcome to the channel, the Coinlore Vault, and before you scroll past this video thinking it's just another coin talk, let me ask you something that might change your life. What if I told you that a simple Roosevelt dime sitting in your pocket right now, something you'd normally use to buy a piece of candy or toss into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth enough money to buy a brand new luxury car? I'm not talking about some ancient relic locked away in a museum vault or a coin that only billionaire collectors can dream of owning. I'm talking about a 2002 Roosevelt dime that looks almost identical to every other dime you've ever held, except for one crucial difference that most people will never notice, and that difference, my friend, has made some lucky individuals richer by $55,000. Yes, you heard that absolutely right, $55,000 for a 10-cent coin. And here's the thing that should make your heart race a little faster. This isn't some made-up internet rumor or clickbait nonsense. This is real money that real people have actually received at legitimate auctions, and the craziest part? There are still examples of this coin floating around in circulation right now, hiding in plain sight, waiting in piggy banks, forgotten in old jars, mixed in with laundry change, completely overlooked by people who have no idea they're literally throwing away a fortune. And I know what you're thinking, how is that even possible? How can a dime from 2002, a year that isn't even that long ago, a year when many of us were already adults walking around with these exact coins in our pockets, how can it suddenly be worth more than most people earn in an entire year? The answer lies in something that coin collectors call mint errors, those beautiful, valuable mistakes that happen when the United States Mint, despite all their precision equipment and quality control measures, accidentally produces coins with unusual characteristics that make them incredibly rare and desirable. And the 2002 Roosevelt dime has one of the most sought-after errors in modern numismatics. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you on a journey through the fascinating story of this coin, and trust me, by the time we're done, you'll be checking every single dime that passes through your hands for the rest of your life. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular dime so valuable, I need you to stick with me through this entire video because the 2002 isn't the only Roosevelt dime hiding shocking value. Wait until you hear about what happened with dimes from other years that followed, coins that took everything we thought we knew about Roosevelt dime values and completely shattered those expectations. But we'll get to those absolute jaw-droppers in just a bit. Let's start with some context about the Roosevelt dime itself, because understanding the history makes the error even more incredible. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just 1 year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt's death, and it was chosen to honor him specifically because of his instrumental role in founding the March of Dimes, the organization dedicated to fighting polio, the very disease that had paralyzed Roosevelt himself. So every time you hold a Roosevelt dime, you're actually holding a piece of American history, a tribute to one of our most beloved presidents, and the design, created by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek, features Roosevelt's profile on the obverse side, looking left with quiet dignity, while the reverse displays a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength, beautiful symbolism that most people never even think about when they're counting out their change. Now, the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D-Mint mark just above the date on the obverse, has been producing Roosevelt dimes for decades, churning out hundreds of millions of these coins every single year, and in 2002, they continued their usual production, striking dime after dime after dime in what should have been a completely routine year. But something extraordinary happened during that production run, something that would create one of the most valuable error coins of the 21st century. And here's where it gets really interesting. The error we're talking about is what's known as a full band designation, but not just any full bands. We're talking about absolutely pristine, razor-sharp, perfectly struck full bands on those torch bands on the reverse of the coin. You see, on a normal Roosevelt dime, if you flip it over and look at that torch, you'll notice it has two horizontal bands wrapped around the bundle of sticks at the bottom, and on most dimes, even uncirculated. One straight from the mint, those bands are weak, mushy, incomplete, or completely missing details because that area of the die tends to wear down quickly and doesn't always transfer a full, strong impression onto the coins. But every once in a while, under perfect conditions with fresh dies, proper striking pressure, and a bit of luck, the mint produces a dime where those bands are completely separated, fully detailed, with sharp, distinct lines that look like they were drawn with a precision. Laser, and when collectors examine a 2002D Roosevelt dime under magnification and see those full bands in absolutely perfect condition, combined with other premium qualities like flawless surfaces, original mint luster that blazes like it was just struck yesterday, and zero signs of contact marks or imperfections, well, that's when things get expensive, really expensive. The coin that sold for $55,000 was graded by a professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and it received a grade of MS68 full bands, which in coin grading terms is essentially perfection. We're talking about a coin that survived over 2 decades without a single scratch, mark, ding, or bit of tarnish, a coin that somehow made it from the Denver Mint through the counting machines, distribution systems, and potentially even into circulation, only to be plucked out by someone who recognized its extraordinary quality and had the wisdom to preserve it. And when it finally made its way to auction, serious collectors who understand just how rare truly flawless modern coins are, went into an absolute bidding war, driving the price higher and higher until it finally hammered down at that astronomical $55,000 mark. But here's something that should really capture your attention. You don't need a perfect MS68 specimen to make serious money with a 2002D Roosevelt dime. Even coins graded at MS67 full bands, just one grade lower, have sold for thousands of dollars. We're talking anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 depending on the exact quality and auction house, and MS66 full bands examples, which are slightly more available but still incredibly rare in the grand scheme of things, regularly fetch between $2,000 and $5,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I would be absolutely thrilled to find a $2,000 dime in my change. Wouldn't you? And here's the really exciting part that gives everyone watching this video a legitimate chance at finding treasure. Not every valuable 2002D dime has been found yet. Coin roll hunters, those dedicated individuals who buy up boxes of dimes from banks and search through them looking for valuable varieties and errors, are still discovering high-grade 2002D Roosevelt dimes with full bands in circulation. And while the odds of finding an MS68 are virtually impossible since that grade requires absolute perfection and coins in circulation get damaged almost immediately, finding an MS64 or MS65 full bands example that could be worth several $100s or even break into the $1,000 range is absolutely within the realm of possibility, especially if you're searching through uncirculated rolls or estate collections where coins have been stored properly for the past 2 decades. Think about it this way: in 2002, nobody was paying any special attention to Roosevelt dimes. There was no internet hype, no YouTube videos, no social media posts warning people to check their change. People were just spending these coins like any other dime, and many of them ended up in jars, coin collections that belonged to casual collectors who weren't aware of the full band's premium, or stored away in safe deposit boxes by people who saved coins but didn't know what to look for. And those coins are still out there, waiting in estates, waiting in old collections that are being sold off, waiting in your grandfather's coin jar that you inherited and never really sorted through carefully, just waiting for someone with knowledge, someone like you who's watching this video right now, to discover them and realize their incredible value. Now, I mentioned earlier that you should stick around because there are other Roosevelt dimes that will blow your mind, and I wasn't kidding. The values we're about to discuss make this 2002D look almost affordable by comparison. But before we get there, let me give you some practical tips for identifying full bands on a Roosevelt dime, because knowledge is power and I want you to actually be able to recognize these valuable coins if you encounter them. First, you need good magnification, at minimum a 10x jeweler's loupe, but ideally a microscope or high-powered magnifying glass that can show you fine details. Look at the reverse of the dime, locate that torch at the center, and examine the 2 horizontal bands at the bottom of the torch where it wraps around the bundle of sticks or fasces, as they're technically called. On a full bands example, you should see complete separation between the top band and the bottom band, meaning there's a clear gap running all the way across. Horizontally, where you can distinguish one band from the other with no weak spots, no areas where they merge together, no mushy undefined sections, just crisp, sharp, fully separated bands from one edge to the other. And that's your first indicator that you might have something special. But full bands alone aren't enough to hit those massive values. You also need to assess the overall grade and condition of the coin. Look for original mint luster, that frosty, satiny, or sometimes blazing cartwheel effect that uncirculated coins have when light hits their surfaces. Check for contact marks, which are tiny scratches or dings that occur when coins bang against each other during production, handling, or storage. Fewer marks mean higher grade, which means higher value. Examine the high points of Roosevelt's portrait, his cheek, his hair above his ear, the area around his neck. These are places where shows up first. Any flatness or dullness in these areas indicates circulation and drops the grade significantly. And finally, look for any toning or discoloration. While light, attractive toning can sometimes add value to certain coins, for modern Roosevelt dimes, collectors generally prefer completely brilliant, untuned surfaces that look exactly as they did the day they left the mint. You might be wondering, why do collectors pay such insane premiums for these seemingly minor differences? What's the psychology behind spending $55,000 on a dime? And that's actually a fascinating question that gets to the heart of what coin collecting is really about. For serious numismatists, coins aren't just money, they're miniature works of art, historical artifacts, and tangible connections to our nation's past. And within that world, condition is absolutely everything. The difference between a nice uncirculated coin and an absolutely flawless superb gem uncirculated coin might seem subtle to the untrained eye, but to a collector who has spent decades studying these pieces, who understands how rare true perfection is, who has examined thousands of examples and knows that genuine MS-68 quality appears maybe once in every 100,000 coins or even less frequently, that difference is worth every penny of the premium. Plus, there's the competitive aspect of collecting registry sets, where collectors compete to assemble the finest examples of every date and mint mark. And when you're trying to build the #1 ranked Roosevelt dime set in the entire world, you need that MS-68 2002D. There's no substitute, there's no compromise, you pay whatever it takes to secure that coin. And that's how we end up with these spectacular auction results that seem crazy to outsiders but make perfect sense within the collecting community. And here's something else that's important to understand about the modern coin market. It's not just old guys with magnifying glasses anymore. The demographic of coin collectors has shifted dramatically over the past decade. Younger collectors are entering the hobby, bringing fresh enthusiasm, new money, and sometimes different priorities. They've grown up with the internet, they have access to instant information, real-time auction results, and online communities where knowledge spreads fast. And many of them specifically target modern coins from their own lifetime, because there's something psychologically satisfying about finding treasure that was made during your own era rather than hunting for coins from a century ago that seem almost mythical in their rarity. This shift in collector demographics has pushed values for high-grade modern coins, especially modern Roosevelt dimes with premium qualities like full bands, to levels that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago. And all indicators suggest these values are going to continue climbing, not dropping, because the supply of truly flawless examples is fixed and limited, while demand continues to grow with each new collector who enters the hobby. But wait, you've been patient, you've stuck with me through this deep dive into the 2002D Roosevelt dime, and I promised you that even more incredible coins were coming. Well, get ready, because what I'm about to share with you next will make $55,000 seem almost reasonable. Next, 2012 P. Rose Weldon dime. If you thought $55,000 for a 2002 dime was shocking, I need you to sit down for this one, because we're about to explore a coin that absolutely shattered every expectation and redefined what modern Roosevelt dimes could be worth. And before I tell you the exact figure, I want you to imagine for a moment that you're at a coin show, casually browsing through dealers' tables, and you spot a 2012 P. Roosevelt dime in a protective holder. It looks brilliant, flawless, absolutely pristine, and the dealer casually mentions it sold at auction for $57,000. Your first reaction would probably be disbelief, maybe even thinking the dealer made a mistake or was pulling your leg. But I'm here to tell you that not only is this figure completely real and verified, it actually happened, and the story of how a 2012 Philadelphia minted Roosevelt dime, a coin that was struck just over a decade ago when smartphones were already in everyone's pockets and social media was connecting the world, reached this astronomical value is absolutely fascinating. The 2012 Roosevelt dime that commanded $57,000 at auction represents everything that serious collectors dream about, absolute perfection in every single aspect. And when I say perfection, I'm not using that word lightly or hyperbolically. I mean a coin that was examined under intense magnification by expert graders who inspect coins for a living, people who have seen millions of coins pass through their hands, and they determined that this particular dime was essentially flawless. It received a grade of MS69 full bands from Professional Coin Grading Service, and if you're not familiar with the grading scale, let me put this in perspective for you. MS69 is one step below the theoretical perfect MS70 grade, and MS70 Roosevelt dimes are so rare that some dates don't even have a single confirmed MS70 example in existence. So MS69 represents the practical ceiling of quality for most Roosevelt dimes. It means the coin has full, blazing original mint luster, absolutely perfect full bands on the torch with razor-sharp separation, zero distracting marks of any kind, not even the tiniest contact mark that you might need 20x magnification to see, no spots, no toning except perhaps the most delicate and attractive natural color, nothing that detracts from the coin's perfection in even the slightest way. And finding a Roosevelt dime in this condition from any year is extraordinarily difficult, but finding one from 2012, a recent date when most people weren't even thinking about carefully preserving dimes because who worries about saving ordinary pocket change, that's almost miraculous. Now, you might be wondering, why would collectors pay $2,000 more for a 2012 than for that already expensive 2002 we just discussed? What makes this particular coin worth the premium? And the answer comes down to a combination of factors that all had to align perfectly. First and foremost, the 2012 Roosevelt dime is actually scarcer in high grades than you might expect. Even though the Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of dimes that year, the vast majority of them went straight into circulation where they immediately started accumulating the contact marks, scratches, and where that make high grades impossible. And even among the coins that were preserved in uncirculated condition, maybe pulled from mint sets or saved by collectors, very few have the full bands designation because the dies used to strike these coins weren't always in optimal condition. Die wear is a constant issue at the mint. As they strike more and more coins, the fine details on the dies deteriorate, especially in that critical torch band area, which is particularly susceptible to weak strikes. So you need coins that were struck early in a die's life with perfect striking pressure on perfect planchets, and then those coins need to somehow avoid every source of potential damage from the moment they're struck until they're submitted for grading. And when I say avoid damage, I mean avoiding the counting machines that can cause rim dings, avoiding contact with other coins during storage, which causes bag marks, avoiding improper handling by people who touch the surfaces with their fingers leaving oils and residue, avoiding environmental contaminants that can cause spots or tarnish. Essentially, you need a perfect storm of good fortune for a coin to survive in MS69 condition. Let me paint a picture of what actually happens to most coins after they leave the mint, because I think this will help you appreciate just how special these high-grade survivors really are. Coins are struck at incredible speeds, thousands per hour, and they fall into large bins where they immediately start banging into each other. That's contact mark source number 1. Then they're run through counting machines that can cause additional marks and rim damage, contact mark source number 2. They're loaded into large bags or containers for shipping, more opportunities for damage during transport, source number 3. They arrive at Federal Reserve banks where they're processed again through more machines, source number 4. They're distributed to commercial banks where they go through yet more counting equipment, source 5. And finally, if they make it into circulation, they're exposed to everything imaginable, being dropped, scratched, exposed to moisture, chemicals, you name it. The fact that any modern coins survive in pristine condition is honestly remarkable, and the coins that do survive are usually ones that someone intentionally protected, maybe a collector who bought fresh mint set coins and immediately put them in proper holders, or perhaps a mint employee who recognized something special and set aside a few coins, or maybe just pure luck where coins ended up stored in a way that protected them perfectly by accident. And here's something that should make this even more intriguing for you. There's an entire community of coin roll hunters out there who understand these possibilities and actively search for valuable modern coins. These aren't just random people. They're serious researchers who have studied population reports, auction records, and survival rates, and they know that for certain dates and mint marks, particularly from Philadelphia, which doesn't put its P mint mark on dimes. High-grade examples. With full bands are genuinely rare and valuable, so they'll buy entire boxes of dimes from their local banks, boxes containing thousands of coins, and they'll search through every single roll looking for uncirculated examples. And when they find dimes that appear to be in exceptional condition, they'll submit them to grading services hoping to discover that next MS-68 or MS-69 specimen that could be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And the beautiful thing is, they're still finding them, even today, even after all these years of searching. Valuable Roosevelt dimes are still being discovered in circulation, in old collections, in estate sales, hiding in plain sight just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. Now, for the 2012 piece specifically, what made this coin achieve that incredible $57,000 price point was a perfect combination of grade, designation, and market timing. When this coin came to auction, the modern coin market was experiencing strong demand. Serious collectors were competing aggressively for top pop coins. That's collector terminology for the highest graded example known to exist of a particular coin, and this MS-69 full bands 2012 P was either the single finest known or tied with only one or two other examples for the finest known, making it extremely desirable to registry set collectors who needed it to complete their sets or improve their set rankings. And when you have multiple serious collectors with deep pockets all determined to own the same coin, auction prices can go absolutely stratospheric. Bidding wars develop where the actual dollar amount almost becomes secondary to the competition itself. Collectors get emotionally invested, their competitive instincts take over, and they'll keep bidding until they either win the coin or reach their absolute financial limit. And in this case, someone wanted this 2012 P badly enough to pay $57,000. And honestly, they probably don't regret it one bit because they now own a piece of numismatic history. A modern Roosevelt dime that has been certified as essentially perfect. Think about the story this coin tells about American manufacturing and minting excellence. Here we have the United States Mint in 2012, operating some of the most advanced coining equipment in the world, producing billions of coins annually. And yet even with all that technology and precision, creating a truly flawless coin requires everything to go exactly right. It's a reminder that despite automation and modern manufacturing techniques, there's still an element of art and craftsmanship in coin production, and when the mint produces something genuinely perfect, something that showcases American coining at its absolute finest, well, that deserves to be preserved and cherished, and that's exactly what collectors do when they pay these premium prices. They're not just buying metal, they're preserving perfection, they're protecting a piece of American heritage, and they're ensuring that future generations will be able to see and study examples of coins in the exact condition they left the mint, unmarred by time or circulation. You know what's really exciting about coins like this 2012 P? They prove that you don't need to be hunting for ancient Roman coins or medieval European treasure to find something genuinely valuable. The idea that a coin from 2012, a year that doesn't feel that long ago, can be worth more than a new car is absolutely mind-blowing, and it opens up possibilities for everyone. You don't need to be an expert in historical rarities. You don't need to spend your life studying 18th and 19th century coinage. You can focus on modern coins, coins from your own lifetime, and still discover incredible value if you develop the knowledge and skills to identify quality. And that's what I'm trying to give you with these videos, the knowledge to recognize opportunities when they appear, whether that's understanding what full bands look like, knowing which dates and mint marks are scarcer in high grades, understanding how to properly store and preserve coins to maintain their condition, or simply being aware that modern coins can be valuable so you don't accidentally spend something important. Now, I haven't forgotten my promise to you. I told you that we were building towards something even bigger, and we absolutely are, because while $57,000 is an amount that would change most people's financial situation significantly, imagine what we're going to discuss next, a Roosevelt dime that took everything we've talked about and pushed the values even higher into territory that seems almost impossible. But before we get there, just take a moment to really absorb what You've learned, you now know that 2002D and 2012P Roosevelt dimes in exceptional condition with full bands can be worth serious money, life-changing money, and that knowledge alone gives you an advantage that most people walking around spending coins every single day simply don't have. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover one of these valuable dimes and experience that incredible rush of excitement that comes with finding genuine treasure.